We have all been in a situation where we're having a conversation in English, but we just can't seem to understand what the other person is saying, or perhaps we couldn't hear what they said. So you say, "Can you repeat that?" But then the same thing happens again in the same conversation. Do we continue to say the same phrase over again and make it really awkward? Or do we just stand there and smile and nod and pretend that we understood what they said? So that we can avoid these two scenarios, I'm going to give you 5 phrases that you can use to ask someone to repeat themselves so that you can vary your language and delivery and feel confident in your requests. Number 1, "Sorry, I didn't catch that." "Sorry, I didn't catch that" is a polite and common expression that we can use in a variety of situations. For example, you can use it at work, you can use it with friends, you can even use it with strangers. It's quite polite without being overly formal. So for our formality rating, we're going to give it a 7 out of 10. And for our frequency rating, we're going to give it a 9 out of 10. Here's an example in context. "We need to reschedule the meeting for next Tuesday." "Sorry, I didn't catch that. What day did you say?" Number 2, "Come again?" "Come again" is a slightly playful and quite relaxed phrase, therefore it is considered informal. You would usually use this in casual conversations with your friends or family, and it is less appropriate for professional or formal settings. It can be quite fun in casual conversations, but it is not as common as some of the other phrases that we use. So for our formality rating, we're going to give it a 4 out of 10, and for our frequency rating, we're going to give it a 6 out of 10. Here's an example in context. "I'll pick the groceries up on my way home." "Come again?" I missed that. Number 3, "What was that?" "What was that" is a neutral everyday phrase that is quite casual, but it can work in a variety of different settings. It is direct and easy to understand. However, in very formal settings, it might sound a little bit abrupt. So for our formality rating, we're going to give it a 5 out of 10, and for our frequency rating, we're going to give it an 8 out of 10. Here's an example of "what was that" in context. "I think I left my bag at the cafe." "What was that? I didn't hear where you said you left it." Number 4, "Pardon?" Pardon is a very formal and polite way to request someone to repeat themselves in English. It is less common in everyday conversations, but it is perfect for professional or formal situations where you want to show respect when you're asking someone to repeat themselves. For our formality rating, we're going to give it a 9 out of 10, and for our frequency rating, we're going to give it a 7 out of 10. Here's an example in context. "I think we should move the meeting to Thursday instead." "Pardon? What day did you say?" Number 5, "Could you say that again?" "Could you say that again" is a polite and respectful phrase to ask someone to repeat themselves in pretty much any context. Although it is polite, it won't sound overly formal if you use it in casual conversations because it is such a common phrase to use. For our formality rating, we're going to give it an 8 out of 10, and for our frequency rating, we're going to give it a 9 out of 10. Here's an example in context. "The meeting is scheduled for 3 p.m. "Sorry, could you say that again? I didn't catch that time." For the next part of the video, I'm going to give you some practice role-playing situations where I'm going to provide you with a situation and you need to decide which phrases would be the most appropriate to use in those contexts. This way you can practice with the different phrases and become familiar with how formal or informal they are. Situation 1. You're at a business meeting and someone gives you important information, but you miss it. Which phrase do you think would be the most appropriate to use here? Situation 2. You're at a noisy party chatting with a friend and you couldn't hear what they just said. What would you say to your friend? Situation 3. You're on the phone with a colleague and they mention a project deadline, but you didn't catch the details. Which phrase would be polite and professional here? Situation 4. You're in class and the teacher explains the homework assignment, but you missed part of it. What would you say to the teacher? So for scenario 1 and 4, if you selected a more formal phrase such as pardon, could you repeat that for me, or sorry I didn't catch that, then you would be correct, as they are the most appropriate. For scenarios 2 and 3, you would be correct if you selected a more casual phrase such as what was that, come again, or sorry I didn't catch that. So just a reminder that if you have a different answer to what appears on the screen, don't be too concerned. You can use these different phrases in pretty much any situation, but it is just to give you an idea of how appropriate they would be depending on the formality. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you have learned a few alternative phrases to can you repeat that, so that when you have a conversation next and you don't understand what the person is saying, or perhaps you didn't hear them, you can vary your language and be more confident when you're asking people to repeat themselves. Always have a fantastic day, night, evening, wherever you are, and if you have any feedback at all or future video requests, please leave them in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.